But we do have time for some Q&A questions.
Hell yeah, brother.
Thank you for asking questions in the comments.
Yeah. Just want to take a second to thank these three people who were like our most consistent watchers and ask a question almost every week. So Jesse,
we love you guys,
Jesse, thank
honestly.
you very much. You're awesome. The Mota who's asked us.
He's also
questions.
been bantering with me on the dialogue Twitter, which hello.
Great. And
sorry
John,
for saying your name wrong.
And John, thank you very much. You guys have been asking a lot of questions. Keep it up.
You guys are gonna be the OGs. If we ever make it big one day, we're gonna send shit to you guys first and foremost.
Exactly. Tell your friends.
Tell your family. Tell your dog.
Yeah.
Tell your dad.
Yep. John asks us.
John?
What do you think
Does it
about
just say John? It just says John.
We
That's
did this
awesome.
last week. Yep. What do you?
Did I?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
What do you guys think about political propaganda used in films? Would you be more inclined to watch an objective or biased film? You can't accuse us of bringing up politics.
I'm just
Do we have to make this political?
Hey, it shows that some of our fans are into it.
Yeah, thank you for asking a political question. Kyle, you can kill yourself.
No. I mean,
That's an interesting question, though. Do you watch, like, movies that are biased? Or...
Wait, okay, did he say, would you rather watch something that's politically biased, or...
Would you rather be inclined to watch something that's objective or biased?
I think it depends
Yeah, it does.
on the movie.
Yeah.
Because if I'm watching a documentary from a certain viewpoint, like,
Right.
sometimes the bias is just kind of going to be what it is.
How do you make a documentary without... Well, sometimes I guess you
Like
can.
the life of this person,
It's
and you're
tough.
just stating the facts. You're like, he was born here.
Yeah.
He went to school
Sometimes,
here.
I mean, I think sometimes you're looking for a certain bias. Like, you're looking for an alternate viewpoint. I think as far as, like, most of the time, we tend to poo-poo movies for being biased, but mostly because most movies that come out in the Hollywood system, and we've talked about this, I don't think it's a secret, that Hollywood is definitely much more geared... I don't know what is outside.
It's a truck.
I was just going to say, it's obvious, Hollywood, liberal, shifted left. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like, I guess I just want a movie to show its cards.
Yeah.
Like, if it's objective, like there's movies that are there's documentaries, there's movies that are objective to a fault. Like why it's almost being too objective. I would say an example would be I watched a movie it was a Ted Bundy movie with Zac Efron on Netflix. It was shockingly evil and
I know what you're talking
vile.
Was it good?
So the director made a documentary about Ted Bundy, and it is one of the best documentaries I've ever seen.
Interesting.
It's like a mini series.
Okay.
And it is like fucking insanely good. And then he or she, I don't know. I honestly don't know if it was a guy or a girl, but they made the movie with Zac Efron right after, and there we go. And it just goes over the same shit.
Okay.
But the movie is oddly objective. And, like, doesn't show him murdering people. It's, like, it's, like, almost...
Left up to interpretation? Or...
Kind of. It kind of views Ted Bundy through the eyes of, like, what you would have seen if you were just watching the story play through the television.
That's interesting, though.
You don't see... Yeah, but if you've seen the documentary,
but
you'll know why it's a problem.
It doesn't give you a new experience, then...
No. It's, like, what's the point if it's, like, the same story we all know, kind of?
Right.
You know, you know... Sometimes it's not a good idea to fill in the gaps if you don't know what's in those gaps. But I mean, if you're making a film, like, shouldn't that be like what you do when you make a film? Whereas like the documentary should kind of be a little bit more.
I'm actually surprised how complicated of a answer this is, because I think it definitely depends on the context. Because sometimes you want a little bit more subjectivity, but sometimes you definitely like. I think in today's day and age, there's like. I mean, obviously, with the political polarization that's happened this year and everything, it's just like it has been more refreshing to see a more objective take on things. It's incredibly rare. But I know there's some movies like I don't really want to.
Yeah.
I can't think of any on the top of my head.
I think
I'll move on. Sorry, but I just want to finish, like, bring it full circle. What I was trying to say is just that the Zac Efron Ted Bundy movie doesn't feel like it's portraying him fully accurately, Ted Bundy, because you watch the documentary and it's like
almost like it's
this is this human being
in a slightly more positive light.
Yeah, definitely not pro Ted Bundy.
Yeah,
but you're it's a little bit strange at how little they decide to go into. I mean, you only have an hour and a half, but it definitely doesn't feel as like they're showing him as negatively as they should.
I haven't spoken yet.
I just wanted to read them.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You did bring up the word propaganda.
Yeah, so I was going to say, he does specifically ask about political propaganda, and here's...
Which propaganda implies that, like, the information is skewed.
I don't like speaking. It's okay.
Well, I mean, Borat 2, we talked about that. We literally called it propaganda, and I think that word gets thrown around too often, and I think it's a little overplayed. Go ahead.
I was just going to say my problem with this question is that I can't think of a single film that is overtly and on purpose that I have seen, because he's asking politically specifically, that I have seen where it's like obviously biased towards the right. I have only ever seen movies that are obviously biased towards the left. So that's my problem, is that obviously I would rather watch an objective film, because if I'm being completely honest, and I'm honestly not trying to be biased here, I don't see right-leaning biased movies, ever.
I think they do exist, but I think you tend to see them less because left-leaning biased movies are more so accepted in popular culture. Yeah, and I'm sure there are plenty of right-wing biased movies.
Do you guys have examples? Like,
no, but I'm sure they exist, and I'm sure they're like smaller films that like you have to seek out.
I can think of movies people would point to as being like that's right-wing propaganda that I don't necessarily think are.
Yeah.
Like any Clint Eastwood fucking movie.
But just because something is right-leaning doesn't mean it's propaganda.
Exactly.
So that's the problem, is if something is slightly right-leaning, and that's a movie, I honestly don't think you can call something like propaganda.
Borat 2 is the only thing that really comes to mind that's like, that movie is... The reason why I think that's just straight up propaganda is it's because it's trying to influence an election.
It is.
Yeah.
In the midst of an election, and that just feels so disgusting to me as a piece of art.
It transcends. It's not entertainment anymore. No. It's trying to influence your thinking.
As far as politics goes, my second answer would be Vice, but and I think Vice is almost like a worse example than Borat 2. I think Borat 2 is straight up propaganda, but what Vice does, and that's directed by Adam McKay, it's Christian Bale, about Dick Cheney and everything.
I need to rewatch that. I really do. Because...
I think the movie is really entertaining and well put together. Like, its style is great, but the thing that I think is most reprehensible about that example is it does exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
It doesn't... I like when movies show its cards, like Borat 2, at the very least, it tells you exactly what it's doing. It's fucking says vote at the end of the goddamn movie. It's obviously left-leaning in its politics. They're making fun of conservatives the whole time, and it's dumb as shit, but like at least it's telling you what it's doing. Whereas Vice is posing as objective for the entire runtime, and then during the credits, the end scene, it's like, never mind, Trump's bad, and it's kind of like, what the fuck? Like, it was like lying to you this whole time, and it makes you distrust the entire movie because of that. So
yeah, I've actually seen the end credit scene that you're talking about. It was a little different than I thought you were. Spoilers for Vice, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not even really a spoiler.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with
the movie. The movie ends with there's an after credit sequence where like a focus group is like watching the movie that you just watched, and one of the guys calls it like left-wing propaganda, and the other guy is like something because you're a Trump supporter, and they end up like fighting or something.
And then they give the liberal the last word, and it's like, and then it ends, I think.
And I think it's supposed, and it's
mocking him, calling him a libtard.
Again, it feels very like look at how far we've strayed. What?
It feels like if a grandpa was on Twitter for a week and then wrote a script by it. Like, this is what I imagine.
It's just so frustrating because that entire movie is actually pretty damn good and pretty damn funny.
What's frustrating too is it's like right before the credits, there's a part with Christian Bale as Dick Cheney talking to the camera, and it's like very interesting. It's kind of...
Forgot about that.
Like, the movie's obviously a little bit more left in its politics, but it's kind of like posing an alternative argument at the very end where maybe Dick Cheney did the right thing. And it's very, like, it makes it emotionally conflicted about the movie itself.
But as soon as Adam McKay frames it in the comparing it to the Trump presidency, then it's like, okay.
Would you guys be down at some point to, like, not soon, but in the future, watch that?
I agree,
because I've only watched it since the theater.
I do want to. I haven't seen it. I want to watch it.
I own it, so we can.
That would be like, and I mean, not to say we would talk about it, but that movie inspires such an endless conversation. I really enjoy talking about that movie, and especially because it's not like it's actually a pretty good movie, you know, like it's very technically well done. So, but I mean, it's very you have to make that distinction, like, between, you know, just because you disagree with the movie's politics doesn't make it propaganda. It's
right.
What makes it propaganda.
I think what makes it propaganda is if it's trying to influence. Again, it's hard when you make that distinction because, you know, all art influences people's emotions and decisions. But I think when you're actively, like, trying to portray something as objective fact, and you're completely skewing it out of interest of your political, or, you know, then that is just straight up propaganda.
You see in Borat that he completely edits it in a way that
and
you're posing as objective.
Something that you're supposed to believe is truly fact has been doctored, and it's the same.
Just false. That's
and
what
then
it is.
And then, like, with God's Not Dead, like, I haven't seen the movie, but I know enough to know that, like, it literally portrays atheists to be, like,
I kind of want to rewatch that. I haven't seen that since youth group, and I know every youth group is, like, shown that movie.
But then there's movies like I haven't actually seen the movies, but I've heard, like, there's a recent movie about, like, it was like anti-abortion stuff.
Unplanned.
Unplanned. And anytime there's a movie like that, it's like, oh, this is propaganda, but where do we draw the line between, oh, you just don't agree with the movie, you know, is it trying to...
There's an interesting episode. God's Not Dead and Unplanned.
Holy shit.
We should do it.
I need to write these down. Comment below if this sounds interesting to you. And if you have movies you want us to talk about, also comment below.
Yeah.